I'm Shauna, and today I'm going to be teaching you how I frame my signs. Alright, so first I start with my sign board. I use pine from Menards, which is what most people use. Some stores call it common board, I think. I use pine 1x2s from Menards as well. The way I do it is I just measure line up the board and then make a pen mark. Some people use what's called a measuring tape. I think that method's harder. I don't really. They measure the board and then measure this, but I feel like that is more work. So I just do this method with a pen mark. Then you take it to your miter saw, line it up. Usually go a little bit bigger just to make sure it'll cut. Okay, now we're going to do the same. And you want to make sure the sides are pretty flush. Even if it's a tiny bit too big or too small, it's probably going to matter once you actually go to nail it. Then we're going to do the bottom. Bigger. Okay, pretty perfect. Alright, then we're gonna turn this. You line up the sideboards just so it's flush with the top and the bottom of the bottle. Alright, you can see how good that looks. Perfect. Okay, now we'll do one more side. Double check it, make sure it all looks perfectly flat. So you can see that looks pretty good. Okay, alright, so now we're going to stain the boards. I usually just use this brown craft paper for protection for the floor, which works really good. I'm using a dark walnut stain, which is a really common one. I always use gloves. I used to not, but now I do because it's a lot easier to clean up. Alright, you put your boards together and it makes it really easy. You can stain them all at once. Seen tutorials where they do them one at a time, but I found that this is a lot quicker. And then you only have to stain the ends of the ones that are overlapping the top and bottom pieces or whatever ones. Sometimes people do it the other way around, so only 2 more of the ends will show. So you want to stain those 2. Hallmark walnut seed board. Oh yeah, and I do not sand the ends of my framing boards because when you go to stain them and you do the, you know, the wiping, this kind of breaks off all the ends, and it's just an extra step that that adds more time. And this is already a time-consuming thing sometimes, especially when you're busy and you have a lot to do. So I say you don't need to sand the ends. Alright, usually I would let these dry because when I touch them, sometimes I get fingerprints on the sign, but since I'm framing a black sign, I'm just going to go right to the framing. Alright, so now we're going to nail the sign. I use, you're going to need an air compressor and a nail gun. Some people can do it by hand. My friend does it by hand, but I feel like that would be hard. But if you don't have an air compressor, I guess that would work. So I have a brad nailer. My husband tells me it's called. Alright, and then you're going to make sure that your nails are long enough. So I've had that problem. I've used too short nails and then the frames just kind of fall out. That they're long enough to go through the wood and the frame. Okay, and then you're going to make sure there's nails in there. Looks like there's enough. Alright, so then I just line up my boards, and sometimes different boards work better on different sides. So I just kind of like play with them until I get the perfect, seems the perfect fit. I guess. Decide where I want them before I go nailing, because they're hard to take out. Alright, and usually I would paint my sign, the words on my sign first, but since I'm using this for a mock-up for photos, I'm not going to paint it. The words on. Alright, so then you line it up. I always make sure the sides are flush. Bring my nail gun, and you want to make sure it's pointing straight down, because sometimes they can shoot out the back if it's tilted just a little, so. We're going to put one there, and one there, and one there. None went out this back, but every once in a while I still get those. And then this one was next. Okay, now keep your hands away from the nail gun. Safety goggles would not be a bad idea either. Alright, sometimes these pine boards can be warped and you kind of got to find the best fit. You know, if they're a little twisted, you know, whatever, you got to work with them sometimes. I usually always do 3. Nail gun is so easy. Okay, then I kind of see how the corners they're bending off. So I try to nail the frame to the frame actually on the final step. So you always want to make sure it's going in straight. Now it's not bending away. Okay, carefully. And try not to move too fast. Alright, and that's how I frame my farmhouse style signs. Thanks for watching.